Okay, now I'm going to show you how to prepare your first cable. We're going to start off with the simple cable, 2 wires attached to each other side by side. The first thing that we need to do is we're starting with a nice clean end that I just snipped off with a pair of wire cutters so that we're even. Then we need to separate the 2 wires from each other to work with them. So I've got my blade and I'm going to cut about 1/3 of an inch right down the middle. And you want to be careful to stay right exactly in the middle, because if you don't, you might cut a little too close to one side or the other, exposing some of the wire inside, and that won't do. We're in good shape here. So now that we have it started, we're going to gently pull these apart to about 1 inch. That should be plenty for any project that you're working on. Okay. Next step, we have to remove about 1 centimeter of shielding from each of these wires. There are a couple of ways to do that. The first one, we're going to use a pair of these wire strippers. And if you see closely, each of these notches is numbered from 10 to 22. That is matching for different gauges of wire. We know that this wire is 20 gauge wire. That's the measurement of the width of the thickness of the wire. So I'm going to put my wire in the second notch for 20 gauge at about 1 centimeter and apply a little pressure, maybe a little bit of a twist, and then you should be able to pull free. And now we can see our wire. And you want to twist that wire nice and tight, like so. So that's the first way you can do that. The second way is with a blade. And the reason you might want to do this sometimes is that with a blade, you can much more finely control the amount of pressure that you're applying to cut through the shielding, so that you can make sure that you don't cut into the wires underneath. This is going to look dangerous, but you're going to have to trust me that I'm applying very little pressure to this blade. And I'm kind of rolling it as I go. I can see it's beginning to cut a little more. Now you can see it, I'm getting in there. There, very nicely done. And again, twist this up. Now, again, it's important to make sure that you don't expose any more of the bare wire than you need to, because any opportunity for bare wire to come in contact with the other wire causes a short, and your project will not work. Okay, the next step we're going to do is applying some solder to the ends of these wires. That's called pre-tinning. And the reason that you do that is that when you make your final connection, whether it's to another wire or some kind of a jack plug, such as one of these, solder always sticks best to other solder. So by pre-tinning, we're going to have the best chance of everything working out very well. Okay. Today, I am using a very nice Weller soldering station. It's a little more beefier of a setup, and it has a power base unit with the big dials, and I can go anywhere up to 850 degrees Celsius. Quite toasty. And that was going to, frankly, will make it a lot easier to do my soldering work. However, most of the time people are using one of the more common and more affordable types of soldering irons, like this guy right here. This is a basic soldering iron, 60 watts, and it is adjustable temperature wise, but the range is just from 200 to 450 degrees Celsius. This will work for these soldering projects. You just may need to hold the heat on there a little bit longer than I need to with my solder station. Okay. Now, when you go to solder, what you want to do is you apply your heat to one side, hold it there for a moment, and then bring your solder in from the opposite side. And see, just after a moment, the solder almost seems to kind of melt into the wire. Very quickly, easily done there. And we'll do it once more. Apply the heat, bring the solder there. And notice, I kept my heat on there constantly. What you do not ever want to do is kind of do like a touch and remove or painting motion with either the iron or the solder. You just need to hold it there. Otherwise the heat will not transfer. All right, that looks pretty good. Nice and silver, it's clean. That cable is ready for use.